What's happening, everyone? We are back at it again, and today we are headed to Costa Mesa, which again is not that far from my house, so I'm excited. We're going to see a really good friend of mine. His name is Nick Long. He owns a company called Media Mix, and today we're going to do a podcast. We're going to talk to Nick about everything: marketing, all different kinds of business strategies, and why it's really good to keep your hustle going over and over and over again, and kind of keeping everything in the family. He built this thing from scratch with his wife. Super successful guy.
What's going on, everybody? As you can tell, we have a guest in studio today for the next 90 with Nick. Super stoked about this. This is a man who's been living the challenge-based lifestyle for quite some time, and the results of his life are literally unrecognizable. It's my man, Dane Carter. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing so well, brother. Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, I'm so stoked. Actually, when I first set out and I started this podcast, you know, I've been following you. I've been watching you and the growth that you've had on social media and, you know, your podcast and whatnot. And I said, the moment I get my podcast live, Andy's going to be one of the first guests.
It is absolutely crazy to see where I'm at now versus where I was at just about 2 years ago. And so if I go all the way back, you know, so my name is Dane Carter, and I was raised in Long Beach, California. It was like Long Beach and Seal Beach is where I spent most of my time and was raised. But I was raised poor. Like, we didn't have much. I was raised by a single mom, and she hustled her face off just to provide for me and my brother.
Especially living in those areas, like Long Beach and Seal Beach, right?
Yeah, so Seal Beach came later.
Okay.
So we were on the west side of Long Beach.
LBC,
we were in the cut, son, for so I was in, and we lived out of a cooler for a while.
Wow.
And we lived in one bedroom. It was a bunk bed, and so nothing that I have now was even remotely close to what we had back then. So I learned to really grind and hustle from a pretty young age. I started working when I was 12 just because we didn't have any money. So if I wanted something, I had to go get it. And I figured that out really, really young, which was great because it instilled this ridiculous work ethic in me. And it was already this crazy athlete that would put in crazy hours just to see what I could do in sport as a kid. And that really transferred into business for me.
Got it.
And everything kind of blossomed from there. I got super into wine and the restaurant thing, and I was a wine sommelier. I was one of the youngest wine sommeliers in the country, and then went to go work for this huge company selling wine. Got really, really burnt out doing that, and hit pause on my life for almost a year.
We think we want this one thing, right? Financial security, the hustle, the money. You grew up with nothing, and so that emptiness of not having the materialism is what you chased, right?
100%.
And then you finally got there. And you found out this is not really what I want. And then we tend to overcorrect and go
of course,
we start burning that shit, and then we go in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
I mean, from the youngest wine sommelier in the country, working as an executive of a huge wine company, to wearing board shorts, you know, and sweating in hot yoga rooms. I mean, it's
that's how I'm built, though. Yeah. I'm either on or off, and it's either full gas or it's not, which is why 90-day challenges for me and how to live that was perfect.
So after that year off, is that when you got kind of introduced to the challenge-based living lifestyle, or what's the gap between there and then when you finally said, you know what, I got to figure this out and put it all into a singular focus?
Sure, and that was a humongous part of the puzzle. So from then it was look, I'm in really good shape. I'm really happy. I have this freedom. But now I don't have any more money. I miss the hustle, I miss the grind, I miss the deal, I missed the hunt of the deal.
Right.
It was a big part of my life. So in that year, I got to discover what my non-negotiables were.
So you start setting these non-negotiables, and then what next?
So it was what next? That was the biggest question. I was unwilling to literally give up all my freedoms. I was unwilling to give up my health again for money. So what do? I had a really good friend of mine. He's why don't you get into real estate? He goes, you've already built companies, you've already worked for big companies, you've already run Salesforce. He's you're a smart guy. Why don't you just get into real estate? You can have all the freedom in the world. And he goes, I know a lot of people that make 6 figures and barely work and not even that good at it. So I was okay, I'll give it a whirl. Same thing.
And
I went.
time frame wise, like
That was. I was 32.
so 2000. I don't want to age you here, but
No, it's all good. I'm 41. It's all good. I tell everybody how old I am.
so that was about 2008.
Yeah. 2008.
So you're jumping into the real estate game at like
At the crash.
at the worst time of the real estate.
Everybody's running out, and I'm running in.
And you're running into the burning building.
Totally. But that's kind of my thing.
No, I love it.
And I had so much pushback from everybody. It's like, oh, the wine guy's going to go do real estate now. And I'm like, yep, watch this.
Yeah.
It's the same principles. It's still a service-based industry. And I know people, like that's what I was good at, was managing people.
Right.
Life is a people game. I don't care what you do for a living, it's a people sport. So it was really cool, and I like the challenge. I've always loved like houses and loved buildings and loved architecture. And I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Love it.
when I was on like one of the best books.
Go get that book today, people. It's an oldie but goodie.
And it's so good because it just makes you think a little bit different, unlocks different belief systems in your mind. I was on a long bike ride, and I crushed the whole book on a 5-hour ride.
Wow.
My life was changed the next day. I was like, that's it, I'm doing this. And I got into real estate investing, and I went from having $200 in my bank account. The first month, I had like 0 deals. I went to go work for a small firm, and all they did was flips and investments and stuff like that. And then, God, I made like $3,000 the second month, and then I made $6,000, and then I made 50 in a month.
Holy moly.
And then I never looked back.
Wow.
And I just took that capital.
That was the 50, like, was that like earth shattering for you? You're like, you're looking at that paycheck with your name on it, $50,000.
That was half of what I used to make in a year working my face off for a company.
Right. I mean, you've done some big shit, man, and I want to kind of get into that because, I think it's one thing for me to, come on here 2, 3 times, 4 times a week and talk about, 90-day challenges and setting outcomes and setting meaningful targets and being committed to your results and finding out your non-negotiables and all that kind of stuff. And, I think after a while, it begin to sound like wah, 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 Charlie Brown's teacher. But like what I want people to know is like this is not about me. Like this is about you. It is about me for me, but it's about you for you. It's about everybody else that's listening for them to start challenging the way they think so they can start challenging themselves in their life so they can start growing beyond where they are, and that's where the fulfillment comes. So, I mean, so let's kind of talk about some of your early 90-day outcomes.
Sure.
And then now like where you've gone since then, because I want to get into some of the big shit that you've done.
Sure, and it's the like true way for me at least to grow. It's the only way I can grow and expand as a man. I have to set these definitive 90-day goals, 90-day outcomes. I will set a huge challenge, like humongous challenge for my body, one for my business, one for my marriage and my kids, and one for my spirituality. I hit these humongous 4 pillars of my life 90 days at a time. One, it gives me these crazy ways to collapse time that we talk about and get so much done in a short period of time. But what it does is it's not as scary because I'm not looking at my 5-year goal. I'm not looking at my, even like short-term goals of even 6 months.
Right.
I keep it really simple.
Yep.
And that takes the fear out of it.
Right.
And once you can remove the fear, once you can remove giving a shit what anybody else thinks, you can go really fast.
But isn't it crazy though? Like if you look at that year, that 6 months, it becomes daunting, right? And then you kind of get this analysis paralysis and you do nothing.
And you give yourself an out.
Yeah.
You give yourself permission to quit before you even get started.
Exactly. But when you chunk it down to 90 days, you're like, all right.
All right. And here's a huge piece of the puzzle that took me a year to get. There's a little thing called course correction. I would set these targets, something would happen, life would happen. I would get injured so I couldn't do it. And my old thinking and my old behaviors would keep me, held down of I set this and now I can't do it. Oh well, I'll just stop.
Yeah.
Almost to the week that I found Warrior, I found Gary Vaynerchuk, who's
Gary V.
Gary
if
V.
you guys don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is,
look him up.
Your head is in the sand. If you want to do anything, marketing, business, life, everything, go. The guy is a genius.
Absolute genius, and I completely agree. So I went completely all in with Warrior. I'm going to fix my body. I'm going to fix my marriage. I'm going to fix all this stuff. And I got such a foundation in Warrior. I'm like, okay, I want to take this now to the next level. That was when I reached out, to good old Gary Vee, and he was just starting a very new program.
Wait a minute. So, so for those of you who don't know, that statement is kind of funny. I just reached out to Gary Vee. The guy has millions and millions of followers. I mean, I think if I look him up on Instagram, he has probably over 3 million followers.
Yeah.
He's built a $100 million company within 3 years. He owns one of the biggest wine distribution companies online in the country. Has one of the biggest YouTube channels. So it's like me saying, I think I'm gonna reach out to Mark Cuban and and see what he's up to. Like, those are the type of guys that just you easily reach out to. So that's a pretty lofty statement.
Sure, and it was just timing. Like, everything in life is timing, and I happened to time it perfect where he happened to get the email. He was putting together this really cool program that was going to be launched like really soon, and it was called 4Ds, where you could come and pay to fly to New York and sit all day long with his teams that run his entire company, that do all of the marketing, that do the Facebook things, all their strategies, all the behind the scenes stuff.
That's so crazy. A year ago, beta testing the website. Now, massive social media following, YouTube channel, a published book, a podcast, real estate portfolio on fire. And then this is the best thing, people, because I want you to really like hone in on that. It's not about like the money. The money is a result of like living these challenge-based lifestyles and being authentically ourselves. So the best part about this is Andy and I were just talking about it in the lobby of my office here. He's home every single day at 3 p.m. And why is that?
It was a promise that was made to my son,
A
non-negotiable promise that was made to my son at Hoag Hospital when he came out.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but his life and me being a dad, I always get choked up, was so much more important than money.
Yep.
And I moved my office home, which worked for about 2 years. Then it got weird. I was it was just way too much work and way too much dad. But it was a non-negotiable that I would be home at 3 o'clock no matter what. Now I work from 10 to 3.
Wow.
Every day.
Wow.
I take care of myself in the morning.
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
coming in early.
You're welcome. I take care of my body in the morning.
Right.
I take care of my spirituality in the morning and my family. I make my family breakfast every morning. Like, I get my home and my castle handled first.
And then that's what people don't understand is like when the castle's intact, like the king can go wage war in here.
Sure.
I love watching what you're doing. Like, I love to have literally witnessed like the infancy of you living this.
You got to see it all.
The whole cycle.
Like the whole thing from like, I don't have a website, I don't do anything on Facebook, to going full blast.
Like coming to lunch here at my office and like taking copious notes.
Totally.
To
Yep.
a book and a podcast and all that kind of stuff, man. So it's really great, dude. I'm super proud of you.
It's like a huge part of this is because of Nick, and a huge part of what I'm doing is because of what he's doing now with these challenge-based lifestyles. It's big. And so there was a humongous announcement that I was going to say for his podcast because nobody knows this yet.
Uh-oh.
So the thing on YouTube, it's called #UnlockNow with Dane Carter. It was just picked up by Roku,
Nice.
Amazon Fire Stick, and Apple TV.
Dude,
So
that's huge.
it's going to be on like 2 million devices, and
Dude, that's huge.
it's going out. Thanks, brother.
I love it.
Yeah, so I can now finally talk about it.
That's fucking awesome, dude. I'm super stoked, and I appreciate the kind words. And
Of course, brother.
That's what this podcast is about. Is just like creating value for other people, holding myself accountable to what I said I was gonna do. Because I'm not always good at that shit, man.
Me either. Like, I'm a human, normal person. I make errors every day.
Yeah, I came out of the funk of the holidays, and I'm just shaking the snow off, man. And I'm like ready to rock. And like I've got guys behind me, like Coach Jesse and Garrett, and went surfing with Garrett this morning, and they're like, they just want the best for me, but they're willing to call me out on my shit. And I've been called out lately, and like I've had to course correct too.
Of course.
So,
Well, it's because we see your potential,
Right.
and we see it in all these people. And if you start falling below your potential, we will slap the shit out
because
of
you
you.
know where that's going.
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, that's gonna go to sedation and
Everything.
Yeah, so regression. So really cool, man. Head over to AndyDaneCarter.com. Pick up your free copy of 100 Doors, or go find it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Also, he's got the podcast. Let's get a plug for that again.
Yeah, the podcast is called Bulletproof Real Estate.
Make sure you put in your email and subscribe, because we're going to send you, 90-day target calendars and all sorts of goodies that you can start living a challenge-based lifestyle. So until next time, make sure you own your next 90. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate you, bud.
You're the man, brother.
We out.